Alrighty. Good morning. Howdy,
Good
Rowdy.
morning.
Live from
Howdy.
Amsterdam.
Live from Amsterdam.
Yeah, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Good morning, Are you
Yeah,
doing well as well?
I am doing pretty good. I woke up like 30 minutes ago, so
Really?
I had, yeah, like, it was
You
like,
didn't have a lot
oh
of
wait, I
time
have a
to get
recording in
ready.
30 minutes.
Wait, I have to do something today. Shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very relaxed day. Like this week was super
Yeah,
hectic, all kinds of things happening.
we've been working on
And
a project.
yeah, yeah, I'm working for ING Bank at the moment, and Jerry
Nice.
and Sasha are working for online payment platform. That's literally the name of the
Mm.
company, online payment platform.
Online.
And
That's a great name, honestly.
look, everyone who looks for a
Hey,
online payment provider finds them
exactly.
first. So it works really well. But at the same time, we're preparing for an event we're hosting in May, which is going to be a product design event for 130 people. We already
Nice.
put a soft launch live for the ticket sale, but we got really cool speakers. So like we're organizing all of that. Um, yeah. And then we have our own business, right, to run. So that's it's a lot at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But what's going on your side? How did
What's
you
going
end up?
on my side?
Yeah,
How did I end up at Yummy Gum? Well, so I'm studying communication and multimedia design in Utrecht right now.
nice.
And well, I already knew I wanted to do something with visual design because it's always kind of been my vibe.
Yeah,
Um, and I was just looking for a project because for my graduation I had to look for a project at the company, right?
right.
And I kind of ended up at Yummy Gum because I had been following them already for a few years, and I really like the work that they do. And they kind of have like a very specific visual style and
Yeah.
a niche that not a lot of companies have, design agencies in the Netherlands. So that's kind of what I like them for. And I really tried getting an internship at them last year, but that didn't work out. So I
Hmm.
actually did my internship at Hype One, and I know
Right.
Sasha from there actually.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
hey, um, and then I requested if I could do a graduation project at Young
Hmm.
Gum, and that's kind of how I got here.
Nice, man. I was
Yeah,
going through your profile for a minute, and so what I understand is you're 24 years old, but you're like an
that's true.
adventurer at heart. You went to go and study in
Yes,
South
I am
Korea
an
at
adventurer.
Hanyang University, and funny enough, I've been to Hanyang
Really?
University just to visit. Yeah, like years
Why?
ago. Well, I knew someone that was studying there, and I went to South Korea for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and yeah, I went to Hanyang University to check it out and the other
How did you like
districts
it
as well.
there?
I mean, uh, I have to go back. Like 2 weeks is not enough. You know,
I
that's
mean,
the
you do
thing.
have to go
Like,
back,
yeah,
but
it's
honestly,
amazing.
the actually I didn't study at the main campus because they have two
Uh,
campuses, and one of
yeah.
them is in another city, not in Seoul. It's like one and a
Okay.
half
Yeah.
hours from Seoul, and that's the one I studied at because that's just
Right.
the one that Utrecht has a partnership with.
Right. Right.
But I have also been to the other campus, yeah, and it's super nice. But apparently, all of the students at Hanyang they call it Hanyang Mountain because it's like a huge hill.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Makes sense. Like I don't know. I don't want to call it weirdest memory, but something that really stood out to me is that I walked onto that campus for the first time, and I sat down somewhere on a bench just for a minute to check it out. Like because it's huge.
Mm.
And I sat down, and then, like, after 5 minutes, this very nice guy comes and sit down next to me, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Are you are you Christian?" And I was
You
like,
know, that's actually a very common thing in South Korea
"Yeah, yeah." That's what
because
I learned
there's
after.
these kind of, well, I don't want to call them cult people, but they're kind of cult people, and they try to get you into their circles.
Yeah, yeah. He was very interested in inviting me to church and his group of people, and I had to get I needed to adjust for a moment because I didn't understand what was going on. So I was just very friendly to him. But at the same time, I was processing like, this has never happened to me, like what's
Mm,
going on here?
it was a South Korean person, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. In
So
South Korea, South Koreans never talk to you without any reason. So they're not just there; they have small talk with you. So if anyone starts a conversation with you, they always have like some underlying motive.
yeah, yeah. So he tried to sell me into church. That didn't work out. Let's see. So what? How did we end up having this session? Like, how did you
How did
get
we end up?
to? I mean, there's
Uh,
ADP list, but how did we end
ooh,
up on ADP list?
I know that I think I follow Square One on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure.
Maybe, yeah.
And because I always I've been getting your posts, and there was like
Of
one
course, yeah.
about I think it was about imposter syndrome, and you were like, if you
Hmm.
want to book a session, then you can do it
That
through
makes
ADP list.
sense. Yeah,
But I'm not
I have
sure.
been.
No, I don't even follow Square One. Wait,
Shame on
but
you, man. Shame on you.
I guess I follow you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense because I did write a few
Yeah,
things about
I do
imposter
follow you.
syndrome. Mm.
Yeah. So that's how I don't know why I started following you on LinkedIn. I
Uh,
mean, you post good content.
Random
I'm
post,
just there,
maybe. Yeah,
random post.
yeah. All right, fun. Well, you did write like 3 or 4 questions in your booking request. How about
I did.
we just yeah? You want me to bring them up? I can put
Sure,
them in the chat here. Let's see.
that would be helpful.
Let's see. Do we?
How do I find the chat on this app? It's in the bottom right corner.
Thanks for letting me know because I've never used the chat in Riverside before. Just you and Rowdy. And then how do I message? Okay, right, like that. So this is what you
Yes, that's
sent
my
me.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my
Is
first
this
one had
still accurate or
this.
or do you
This
feel
is
like winging it?
I mean, we can also wing it, but I feel like it's still quite accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So how can I deal with my combination of imposter syndrome and perfectionism is the first one. Because I've always been, I, I think that's kind of also just what designers are. We are all perfectionists, right? So it's not like a thing that's specific to me, but
Yeah,
I mean, you probably recognize it. But no,
it
what
is.
I always used to notice is that we set these huge expectations for ourselves, and also in university, for example, whenever
Mhm.
I had to work on an assignment, I would always procrastinate it because I had these huge expectations for myself, and I was like, if I have less time to do it, like if
Yeah.
I only have 20% of the time to do it, then it only needs to be 20% as good, right?
Mhm.
So then
Right.
there's a huge decline in the expectations that I set for myself. But also,
Yeah.
what I notice now that I'm starting to work is that uh, I don't really know how to deal with this, and I don't really know, for example, how much time to spend on a design when I'm doing something because
Mhm.
it's never good enough. And even if I say like, okay, I'm gonna work 3 hours on this thing and it needs to be
Mhm.
good enough in 3 hours, then most probably at the end of the 3 hours, I'll still feel like this isn't good enough.
Right.
And now that I'm working in an environment, because I'm also working on projects at Yummy next to my graduation project.
Mhm.
I'm noticing that the people around me, they feel way more knowledgeable and skilled. While I always thought that I was quite good at what I did,
Mhm.
but now I'm like starting to doubt myself again.
And this is okay. I'm gonna jump in here because this is such a recurring theme, man. This is such a recurring theme. And you know what? It's even worse to be a designer in an agency. This is what I
Yeah.
noticed. Not so much on the knowledge part, but So there's a few pros that you have in an agency versus working in a product environment, and there's a few pros that you have working in a product environment instead of an agency, let's say. And the imposter syndrome, I think we can fill a full episode on that because,
You probably can.
yeah, because so there's multiple sides to it. There is the part where maybe you are questioning the right thing, right? So maybe you don't get enough time to work on something and it isn't good enough. Like that, there's a reality to that exists. There's also the side where you see you stood out as a designer against your peers while studying, and now you're in an environment where people have more experience and they stand out against you, and that is intimidating.
That
right?
is true, because one trend that I noticed within my design studies is that people, they often don't even know how to design something, more in an
Right.
individual design kind of way. Because design education at the moment, I feel like, isn't designed itself to teach people how to design something aesthetically pleasing.
Oh, and especially in CMD, I have noticed that even worse. I would argue, because I think you also did secondary vocabulary education, right? The Media College in Amsterdam. And I would argue that though the let's call it more practical, hands-on kind of study allows people to explore their visual skills better, at least the craft, right? But it's a hard thing to navigate because I think one of the realities is that everything can always be improved. It doesn't matter how good it is. It's about how confident you are that the thing you've crafted is good enough for your audience and not for you. It's like it's looking at it through the lens of the people you're working for or that you're helping, and you are the one that can push the boundaries. So you can talk to your clients and you can surprise your users by pushing what you think needs to be the quality. And they are kind of, at least your clients or stakeholders are supposed to be the ones to push you back a bit because they are managing different risks, right? They're talking about budgets and runways, and they need to manage how they spend their money in different aspects of their business. So the more quality you want to achieve, the more proof you need that quality is also valuable. And I think that is a tricky discussion to have because quality doesn't always equal value.
I mean, quality is also very abstract because, I mean, how are you going to prove that it's going to bring more value?
So, I mean, I would argue everything is measurable, but it's also about trust, right? You build credibility by achieving results for your clients. So achieving results, I mean, it's important to actually talk to them about how you want to measure success so that they can see the results of your design efforts, and you can take the results of that and show your next client, like, okay, well, I had this approach and we measured these things and we saw engagement in our user base increase by 5 billion%. That is something you can hold up anywhere, and
That's very
suddenly
concrete. That's true.
it's very concrete. It becomes tangible because the visual part can be both subjective and kind of hard to measure in some cases, but then again, working on your own style and being confident about your own style makes it so that whenever you present something, if someone doesn't like it, it's not always a sign of bad design. It's also a sign of a bad match. Like maybe you're just pitching great design to someone who doesn't appreciate it, and your styles don't match. So I think it's actually there's some importance to visual designers being opinionated, and the hard part about it is that if the ones you present to are not the ones to get feedback from, how do you decide for yourself what quality visual design is? And one way
Sure.
that has worked for me is by creating a list of designers and agencies and all these and product environments that I really look up to, and I measure my designs against that. So I just look at them and I'm like, is this equally good or better? And if it's worse, then I need to work on it.
Okay.
And also, so you can even go out of your way and
Makes
talk
sense.
to the people working behind those products, or reaching out to designers you greatly look up to, and you tell them, hey man, I'm working on this project and I need some visual feedback, and I don't want to have it from my client because either they'll like it anyway, or they'll have some feedback that doesn't really help me move forward.
Yeah, I think that's very
Yeah.
helpful. Just,
So
I mean,
yeah.
sharing your work in general is something that I don't think enough people, including myself, by the way, don't
Mhm.
do, because it just peer feedback is just such a valuable thing
Yeah.
that makes you grow in different ways than just doing your own work, you know.
Yeah. And
Um,
this is where, so instead of agency environments, product environments really shine, because all the work you do is collaborative and all your work is always visible. There is no presentation, let's say. There's no, like in agencies, what you see often is you work behind closed doors for a few weeks or months, and then you present something to a client, and it's either this big wow moment, or it's this like, we don't like it. And it is exhilarating, but it's also very, very risky, because
yeah,
all the work may have been in vain. And then you're firefighting after that, right? Because client might
that's
be
true.
angry.
I might
And
be angry.
yeah, and in a product environment, all the work you do is together with your team, and everyone can access Figma, everyone can access FigJam and Miro and all the places that you collaborate in every day. They see you work on the spot and you see them work on the spot. And the conversation changes from not only the quality of visual design, but actually to how it translates to the goals of that company. And you become an expert in the subject matter. And it is so much, I don't want to call it easier, but it's so much more manageable to start measuring the quality of your designs in a product environment, because you see the immediate effects on your team members and the immediate effects on your users when something is built, and you get the feedback coming in immediately, which I think is very helpful. But
Right. So as an agency owner right now, what are some things you do to kind of combat this feeling or process of, I don't know whether they're going to like it or not, and it might have been in vain, but is there anything you do to manage those kind of effects?
absolutely, yeah, we don't call ourselves an agency. That's one thing.
I mean, fair enough.
It's we also don't know what we should call ourselves. So we call ourselves a design business, and we help clients design digital products and brands. That's the baseline of it. But the way we do that is very different than most agencies, I would say. I do see a shift in agencies doing the same thing. I don't know about Yummy Gum, but what we do is we sell product designers, ideally in pairs, that integrate onto the client side. All our work is visible from the start, and we integrate ourselves in the teams of the client to collaborate, and we facilitate the full design process with their engineers and product managers. And that makes it so, at least for us, that's so much more valuable, because we get immediate feedback. We align every day. We talk. I mean, we're together, right? We sit together with those teams. We spend 2 days a week at client side and 2 days a week at our studio. But then clients may also join us in our studio. So it's very collaborative. And every piece of design work is collaborative from the start as well. So We manage our work usually in something like Notion or Linear, and we create one team where we manage all our work, also the work of the client, and all our tooling is open as well. So we have one team in Figma, we have one team in
Mm.
Miro, like it's all together all the time. We sit together in Slack, we have stand-ups every day, and we try to create a joint product team with their own rituals and rhythms, let's say, to build a valuable product. And what we ingrain in that is like a continuous feedback loop within the team, but also with the people we're building the product for, let's say the users or customers.
Mm.
Yeah. So we have a whole working mechanism for that is quite flexible and that we can measure and adjust on the go. So we do every 2 weeks or so, it depends a bit on the rhythm with the client. We have a retrospective where we just look at how collaboration goes, what we could improve. Every day we have a stand-up where we talk about, okay, what are we focused on for the day? How do we move forward? Is anyone blocked? It's these kind of rituals that help us build valuable products in collaboration with the client.
Okay, that's very interesting. But then I kind of wonder, in what kind of manner do you experience, for example, perfectionism yourself in working in those kind of product teams? Because I can imagine that exactly because everyone's kind of on the same page, it might be easier to say for yourself, oh, we're going to work to even a higher bar than you would do for a client, right?
It is. So square one of our goals is to build the most beautiful and delightful things we can, right? We really want to push it. The nice part about being on the same page with your client is that you can bring that into the conversation. So we don't have to surprise them. We can just talk about the effects of great design. And because they usually pick us because we also try and present cool stuff, is that from the start, we try to be on the same page on what quality means exactly. And one of the things we do to facilitate that at the start of the project, in some cases, not all, we facilitate a quality definition session. So it's kind of like we sit together with the whole team and we just ask ourselves the question, what does high quality mean for us? What is a high quality product and brand? And we'll take some minutes to write it down on stickies or collect some examples from, products we find cool, or maybe animations or like copywriting stuff that we like a lot. It can be anything. Ways of working, maybe rituals that we have seen work well with other teams, and we try to bring it all in one board and we talk about the things we find most important and we prioritize it. And visual design is always a part of that. So we'll have some examples like, I don't know, famous upcoming designer in the Netherlands, Fonsmans, right? Makes some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So we grab some examples from him, or we look at tooling like Riverside or Apprite, and we grab some examples from that, and we bring it into that board, and we show it, and we talk about, is this what we like? Is this what we think quality is? And if everyone agrees, then we have set a bar that we can measure our own work against. So every time we make something, we can just grab our design, put it next to that, and kind of share a feeling like, is this good enough? And then it's easier to collectively say like, yeah, we're doing great, or no, it looks like shit.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So you need one thing in order to battle imposter syndrome individually, but also as a team, is to have a bar you compare it to, because things can always be better, but things won't get better if you don't allow yourself to explore and experiment. So there's like this fine line between being okay with not achieving what it could be versus achieving that something that is already really good. And then you keep iterating together. And this is the issue with agencies, is that agencies mostly work project-based, so there is a deadline after which you cannot iterate anymore. And that is usually not the case in product. Like
Right.
it continuously evolves. Our shortest projects are usually about 6 to 12 months, which is so much different than working on, I don't know, a product concept or a marketing website for 6 weeks. It forces you to focus too much on visual instead of quality, because those two do not align.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing,
Something to think about.
yeah, it is. It's like a lot to think about.
Yeah.
One question that I do have is, for example, now in an agency, when I have, for example, 6 hours to do a specific pitch, how would I recognize at a certain point where a design would have had met the standards that it needs to have for the user versus my own standards as a designer? How can I differentiate between those two? Because I can, uh, put my design next to one of those big agencies and see if it's, is as good or better than that one. But that could still mean that I'm measuring it from my designer's eye as opposed to
Yeah.
my user.
Yeah. I mean, I think the honest truth there is that you almost cannot, but it is a bit context specific. So, let me make an example here. If you're working on a kind of product that is very innovative and new, it's like no one has ever done it before. Let's think of so recently a lot of new AI tools are coming up. It's very exploratory. Like people don't really know how to approach it yet. It's like you need to do thorough research and test your solutions over and over again and keep learning. But let's say you're making an e-commerce website. There are a lot of standards already defined in e-com. Right? And you can measure your work against that at least to see if you don't break any of the patterns that the majority of people's probably already used to, right? If you have a checkout card and suddenly the price isn't visible because people have to scroll, that could be a measure to think like, okay, that is not really efficient. And you can measure that because every other platform, like, I don't know, Amazon and bol.com and all these places, they will probably have figured it out by now. But it does not ever allow you to really innovate because you only got 6 hours, and it's not like you need to be able to test your stuff with users if you want to understand the things that even Amazon and bol.com haven't tackled yet. So my answer is you can only look at patterns, but you cannot really innovate or learn from users.
No, you cannot really innovate if you have a limited amount of time, as opposed to working in a product environment, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of the crux.
That is the crux. So that's what I tell our clients as well. Is if you're looking to be visually surprised and there's low risk, work with an agency. If you're looking to build a surprising solution for a few of the challenges you face in your business, work with a team or a consultancy that integrates into your business and has a proven track record of doing user research and facilitating the solution process. Yeah. So that's also, I mean, I used to work in agency life for 5 or 6 years, and I loved it, but I also reached that same, let's say, ceiling because I wanted to build cool software.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, how do I kind of ask this question? Don't really know how to word this.
They try it in Dutch.
I think I'll try in English. Wait, how do you, as a designer, as someone that's working in an agency, I notice it's hard to kind of get a feel for um, kind of the business side of design, as in how can I learn to, for example, integrate business goals and objectives into the things that I'm trying to design, as opposed to when you're working in a product environment. Those are kind of the things that exactly the things that you're looking for. How can I connect this solution or a set of solutions, features to a specific business goal, right? As where I'm working in the agency now, that's not really something that I feel like the focus is on. How would you be able to still get a feel for that while not really being able to experience that?
Mm.
If that question makes sense. Like how can
The
I?
question makes a lot of sense, and I actually
It's
think
kind of the how can I get experience without being able to work kind of questions.
but that's what I mean. Like, I think you answered your own question, because in order to get good at anything, you need exposure to it.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of when you're looking for your first job and they say like you need 2 years work experience,
yeah,
but you can't get a job, so you can't get
yeah,
work experience. Exactly, kind
yeah,
of like
yeah. So what helped me was getting out of agency life and I started working for an IT consultancy, and that
mhm,
consultancy was Exhibia, and they integrate their engineers also at client side. So those people went into the business of the clients, and that's also how I was able to get into the business side as a designer. And that forces you to change the conversation with clients, because suddenly, instead of like your manager or design director being at the front of the conversation, you are.
mm,
And suddenly you need to think about their business and the effect your work has on their business. And to be fair, it almost burned me out at the start, because it's such a big change.
right.
It's such a big change. But I'm so happy that I did it, because if we zoom
Mhm,
out, what does it mean to be a good product designer? We know the words by heart. It's like we connect design, technology, and business, or like users,
right.
business, and technology. Let's say the triangle. So if we know that that is what it takes to become a good product designer, if one or two of those ingredients are missing, we don't allow ourselves to become a good product designer,
Mhm,
which to me means we need to shift our focus and work in a place that does allow us to do that.
yeah, yeah. One thing I've noticed is because I've also worked at a data consultancy as a visual designer, and I was actually there was another designer there, but they were working for client projects, and I was working
Mm-hmm.
for the consultancy doing their branding, etc.
Yeah.
And when you're working there on your own, uh, uh, you don't really have anyone to get feedback from, for example, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean you're the one setting the standards for your own work, but
Yeah.
you do get a feel for uh, what do I need to do to connect this to what we're trying to achieve, you know? But
Yeah.
uh, this also kind of ties in with my second question, by the way. What I did notice when I was working there alone is that there's, you know, expectations from everyone that as a designer, I'm able to do all these things. Uh, while, you know, you kind of try to have a focus as a designer, but everyone thinks because you're a designer, you can do all these things, you
Yeah.
know? Because I was doing, you know, print there and social media designs and
Yeah.
branding and UI design too, you know?
Yeah. It is tough. So I still remember a very specific moment at Exhibia where, because they didn't have many designers, I was one of the few.
Mm.
And when the business found out, because, more things started to become visible. My work was being shared inside that business. Suddenly, one of the managers from another department came to me and he was like, Dylan, I have a client pitch soon and I have this PowerPoint, and can you please help me design the PowerPoint? And it was in that point in time, and I'm still proud about it because it was the first time that I felt confident in saying no.
Mm.
So I looked at him and I said, no, I cannot help you with that because I have different priorities as a product designer. I need to focus on a few of these things, and I'm already packed with work, and I cannot help you on this task that doesn't bring me anything right now. So it's also, it feels like you're being a little bit rude, but also the client pitch he was working on wasn't going to contribute directly to my work. And I think everything needs to be like a two-way street mostly. Or if I was going to work on that client pitch, then I want to be the designer that's going to work for that client as well. You know what I mean? I don't just want to be the visual hands of other people. I want to be a strategic partner that helps design good solutions that I can be involved in. And saying no to others is a great way to say yes to yourself. And one way to know what to say no to is by having a clear picture of who you want to be as a designer. So what I did once is I mapped out the kind of designer I wanted to be, and I grabbed back then again a few designers that I looked up to, and I questioned like what is it exactly that makes these people so good? And well, some of them were great researchers, others were great visual designers, others spoke a lot on stage and talked about design strategy and design operations. And I kind of defined a picture for myself that showed me, okay, I do want to be a great craftsman because I love visual design. I also want to deliver really valuable stuff, so I spent a lot of time learning about user research and a bit of human-computer interaction and psychology. And I forced myself to learn more about product development. And putting those things together is already a lot, but it allowed me to say no to shit I don't want to be working on. I don't want to be working on your presentation. I don't want to be working on your poster. Like, I'm not just a visual craftsman. I'm in the design business.
Yeah. Yeah, just setting
Or
your
in the product
priorities, right?
business. Yeah.
Setting your priorities in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to get your priorities straight, and in order to get that, you need to have a vision of what you want the future to look like.
So you did that. You just did that by looking at other people and what you like about them, right?
I mean, it's one of the ways. Of course, I talk a lot to other designers, and I talk every day to my design buddy Cherry, right? I've known him for 10 years, and he's the co-founder of Square One, and we call it ping pong. We go back and forth on everything. Like, we ping pong everything from designs to discussions and whatnot. So I would go as far as to say that it's even important to collect the right friends around you. It's like, surround yourself with the people you look up to and that challenge you into becoming a better designer, better strategist, a better whatever you want to be.
Yeah. The same as in the other areas of your life, you should surround yourself with the people that, or the other friends that you want to learn from, and you think that can make you a better person, right?
Yeah.
It's not only in design that's applicable.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, exposure to the things that frighten you but help you move forward is a great way to look at it.
Yeah. That's some good food for thought, I think.
Yeah. So I don't remember who said it. I'm not even sure if they said it this way, but it was something like, the best things in life are behind fear. So it's like, behind the scariest things you have to do. If it's very scary, it's probably the thing you should be doing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's funny because it's not that I had any difficulty with booking this call, but when I had to write like some questions down, I was like, it's kind of confrontational to write down the stuff that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And but actually, you did do it, and having that vulnerability, it's not actually. I think it's strength because recognizing a challenge is the first step in moving forward. You
Mm,
recognize it, and then you act on it, and you go through it. And I mean, I don't know about you, but what I'm feeling now is we're having a cool conversation, right?
yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah. And then tonight or tomorrow, you're going to have new questions and you can write them down again. And maybe you'll reach out to someone else, or
I probably
maybe
have
you,
like more questions than I started with.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
because I can right now. It's a lot of information, but
Hmm.
the pro of this call is that I can re-listen to it later, probably on the podcast, and I can
Yeah.
write down the questions that will remain over the course of that. So I mean
Hmm.
that's very handy in this case.
Yeah, I hope so. I will definitely also send you a transcript. So
Mm,
usually how this works is tonight I will process the whole episode, as in
yeah.
just transcribe the whole thing, and it will go up live Sunday night already because I this is like a zero edited podcast. I
Mm,
just tweak the audio quality a little bit to match our voices, and then I just upload it, no filters, super raw, and with the transcript, and I can send it to you. And then during the week, I usually uh, take a few clips and post that on social media as well. Usually also focused on your primary questions. So
mm,
uh, yeah, it's a great way, I guess, for you to listen back to it and
yeah.
reiterate like which of the questions or thoughts you want to focus on. And at the same time, you'll get more exposure through my network, maybe people reaching out to you, or you can reach out to them, because they'll find themselves in those questions as well, right? You find the peers uh, that recognize themselves in this conversation.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, I think it's always beautiful when it's kind of a connective thing when you can recognize yourself in someone else's problem and you can learn from that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
maybe it's we can talk about the third question.
Sure.
This is also something that I'm having some difficulty with,
Hmm.
which is how can I effectively train my visual eye and or idea generation skill, which is like there's obviously two parts to this question, but what I see is that a lot of the things that I make, at least this is how it feels to me, is that they kind of look the same, and that I'm always I don't know if this is the phrase in English, but running after the facts also.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I mean? As
I
in,
know what you mean. I don't know if it translates well. Yeah, like
I, I don't know. As in, also, I see what is kind of trending in design land, and I'm trying to improve as a designer. And I can see myself improving, but then I also feel like they're always ahead of me. That I'm like
yeah.
2 steps behind. I see myself improving, but not in the way that I would like myself to.
Hmm.
But some things I've done in the past to train my visual eye, for example, is just like copying someone's work,
Hmm.
like just like literally tracing it in Figma. See
Yeah.
how the things are built up. And another thing I've done is just like what I usually do is just look at designs and think,
Mhm.
why did someone do this specific thing? What do I like
Yeah.
about it? What do I not like
Right.
about it? But still, when it comes to it, often um, I feel like a lot of the things I do that they kind of come down to the same thing. They look the same. Is this something that you might be able to recognize yourself in, or?
Absolutely. And I would argue it's almost an eternal artist struggle. but
It's also kind
it's a
of
hell.
your style,
So,
but I mean, you could argue that there's a part of it that's kind of like your style, but
yeah.
is it able to make it a distinction between what is your style and I guess when does it look the same as your other things in a way that is not your style?
So there's this general consensus or idea that as a designer you go through 3 phases if you keep learning as a visual designer. And the first phase is exactly like you said, like you copy other people's work because you see that it's good, but you don't really know how to define it yet. So you copy it and you try to replicate the work to get an understanding for it. Then the second phase is those styles become your second nature. You don't really have to look to references as often because it starts to be in your fingers. You get a feel for recreating those things. And the third phase is where you understand the pattern so well that you are able to break them and try something new. That's usually like the phase in which you become innovative. And I think moving from being able to replicate styles to the innovative part is not so much a matter of ability, but more of an ability, more of a sense of ballsy. You have to be
Balls.
so ballsy. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm calling it ballsy, but it's the moment you are able to replicate styles and trends really quick and you have a feel for that. What it takes to become innovative is to try things other people haven't tried before and be confident enough to publish it and see how people react to it. And that confidence, that's the scary part, right? It's like no one else is doing this. It's probably shit. I'm going to show it anyway.
Mm.
And that's why as a designer, it's so important to actually, you don't have to be confident about your work. You have to be confident to show the stuff that might not be liked. It's being strong enough to show the things that make you vulnerable.
Mm.
And you don't have to show it to the whole world. Like you could also just pick a few designers again you look up to and show it to them, and they will maybe say like, yeah, there's something in here, this might work. Or maybe someone says, I think it's complete shit. And it's still gonna come down to you to decide whether you think it's good or not.
Yeah.
And I have an example based on your website actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked at it. So, I mean, not everyone is looking at the screen, so I'm going to just also paraphrase a bit of what I'm seeing. But I went to your website and we have the home screen, which looks very fresh and friendly. Says, howdy, I'm Rowdy. And then you have the first case, right?
Yes.
Bonk, the UI design for a banking company.
Yes.
And my first impression was, hey, it looks pretty clean. Like I like some of the patterns that I'm seeing. I like the colors. It's a bit bold, it looks modern. And then I scrolled down a bit and I went to look at the homepage you designed for I think the general marketing website of the bank.
Yeah.
And it's quite zoomed out so you can see a lot of the page, and what I'm seeing there is cards. I see cards everywhere. Like the whole page is like the grid of cards, right? And I think that is a good example of something that looks good, but is very influenced by a trend. And one step forward would have been to break the grid. Try something to break the grid. And I think that is that's just one example of how you can challenge yourself to do something that others aren't doing enough of at the moment. So what you'll see is that I don't want to call it average designer, but let's say designers that aren't super ballsy, they will stick to those patterns that exist. So the grids, the clean colors, the subtle gradients and the subtle shades, and all the Google fonts. It's like see if you can get away from that. Break the grid, use a color no one is using, find a font that is super expensive and that a client is going to have to pay for. Um, find a gradient that is so freaky that it looks like it came from a music video and shouldn't be in design, or there's so many things you can try.
Yeah.
But you can just pick one thing to see if you can challenge one pattern, and then over time it becomes more natural, and you'll challenge 2 or 3 patterns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of easy I mean, fall in the trap of this is something that everyone is doing. So I mean, this must be good, this looks
Yeah.
good. This feels good for me too. So I'm gonna make something that looks like this.
Yeah, so I would put it on a little, what we have in the Netherlands, right? Our little blue tiles with like a little
Yeah.
scripture on it.
Mm,
Like one
perfect.
scripture should be break the grid. That is rule
Break the
number
grid.
1, man. Break
Exactly.
the grid.
Yeah.
It's like
Maybe I
we
should
need to
actually get
try
one of those.
more artsy, crazy things, and it won't always work. In fact,
Maybe
probably it doesn't work, but we need
I
to
can
try.
imagine that when you're working for a client or if you're working like, in a product environment, you don't often get the chance to do that though. So it just comes down to I mean, experimenting in your own time,
Yeah, and it's honestly also not about getting the time. It's about taking the time,
making the time,
taking
right?
it, and telling your
Yeah.
manager and telling your team, like, no, we need to try better. And that is,
Mm,
again, the ballsy part, like being confident in challenging your team, not listening too much to what they think is good, but also bringing in your own voice. Like, no, I think we really have to try something different here because of reasons X and Y.
hmm Yeah.
Power to the designers.
It's
Come on, man.
good
Like,
stuff.
yeah,
We do need that. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, my kind of other part to this question is that I feel like when I'm designing, I'm often leaning too much on inspiration. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, I can design stuff myself. I can think of patterns myself. But when it comes to it, or for example, when I'm doing a branching project, I'll
Mhm.
have kind of this trouble of generating ideas that are unique or something that would fit with the brand, and I'll often need a lot of inspiration to get something going.
Mhm.
And I don't really know how to deal with this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean that's also hard. So it's not just a challenge you're facing, it's a challenge every designer is facing. And I think one of the reasons for that is that there's a bit of a monopoly in inspiration resources. So we have our dribbles and Behance and maybe some Muesli where we look at
Maybe some Pinterest,
Pinterest, yeah. But everyone is sharing the same fucking shit. It's like, look, here's another clean mock-up of an iPhone 15 Pro because,
Mm,
otherwise my design doesn't look good because, I don't know, for whatever reason. Um, so I ask myself this question very often is, where do I want to get inspiration from? What can I use outside
and you can get
the
it from other
general?
sources than design, of course. But
Yeah, yeah, but it's important to stay aware of even using sources that aren't digital. Like, go to musea, listen to a
mm,
poet. I don't like it doesn't always translate to inspiration, but it requires active looking and listening. And it's so maybe so 2 sides. Maybe there aren't enough inspiring resources. On the
mm,
other hand, maybe we don't spend enough effort looking for the right thing to draw inspiration from. It's so easy to overlook the unexpected things, you know? It's
yeah.
look at some photography website. Try and find design resources in Japanese.
Mm,
See go watch a art house movie or an anime. You know, it's like there is more to be found. Yeah,
That makes
that
sense.
would be that would be my main answer. See if you can draw shapes and colors and vibes from the places that aren't defined by designers per se.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe
It's
that's maybe the core thing. Like we shouldn't be
important
drawing.
is getting out
Sorry.
of your bubble, right?
Yeah,
Is the core kind of concept.
yeah,
It's
it
something
is
we
getting out
should
of the bubble.
do more as designers to get out of our bubble. You know, it's actually funny because something I've been seeing a lot now is that people are often talking about how every website that designers design looks the same, you know. And the argument that you hear then is like, well, we're all in our own little designer bubble, right? We are the ones that see all these websites that look like linear, and
Yeah,
uh, our
everything
clients
is a
don't
gradient.
care that
Yay.
they're exactly everything is a gradient. No, but like our clients don't care if something looks like a linear as long as it reaches their business goals and their target audience, right?
Yeah. And that is also like that is their responsibility, but making it look good is ours. So
Exactly.
it's not per se about them what they think is good. It's about how we allow them to see what's better.
Mm. Yeah.
And this is, I mean, also if you ever move to a product environment, chances are you'll find people that will say like, yeah, but you know, Airbnb does it like this or Apple does it like this. And it's like, yeah, they do it like that because they have explored and researched and found what works for them and they experimented. And us copying
Mm.
them doesn't give us any, it's no solid reason to believe it will work for us as well. Like we still need to understand how our users behave and what is the value that they get from us and what we want to focus on. And also how we want to set ourselves apart from the competition,
Mm.
right? Do we want to be the next Airbnb? No, we want to be
No,
the
of course
first
not.
other thing,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's the conversations that designers can bring to the table. They
Mm.
can bring the perspective of people to the table and they can bring the perspective of artists to the table.
Mm. You do think designers are artists? This is like a very controversial topic, I feel like.
There's some overlap to me. So I think designers are facilitators and craftsmen.
I
And
actually just read your article about designers are not problem solvers.
yes, exactly. They're not problem solvers. They're not
Researchers and
value. They're so I you could also replace problem with value. Like they're not. Designers do provide value, and designers can cater to helping solve problems. And some designers will be very good at it. But what design really brings together is insights and people and a way forward, right?
mm,
So, and there is an art to it, but I don't want to conflict it with the fact that design is functional. If design doesn't perform, if design is not perceived well by the audience, doesn't bring in money, if it doesn't uh, allow for decent scalability from a technological perspective, design is bad, right? If it doesn't cater to those things. But in order to deliver value, we need to explore and experiment. And I think that is an art. I think it's an art to think beyond the general convention.
yeah.
So to break the grid, so this is not design specific. It's also engineering and product management. It's getting out of that fucking bubble of thinking everything needs to work the same way something else works. It doesn't. It needs to work at least as good as something else works. or better. And the or better part is where art comes in, because art doesn't draw its inspiration only from what has worked before. It tries to break a barrier and try new things to see what could work next.
Mm.
Right. That
Yeah.
it's art goes beyond the function. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Should put that on a towel
And
as well.
this is the longest episode I'm gonna publish like ever.
Actually, I only scheduled 45 minutes for this as it was. So I think
Yeah.
we should bring it to an end soon. But I think but I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Yeah.
If you could if you can give one piece of like short advice to a designer who's still learning, or something that you wanted to know when you were still learning, what would the thing be?
Okay, this is gonna go on the second bathroom towel, yeah.
Yeah, got it. I'll order
It's
two. I'll bring one to your office.
it's this one is very short. I say this to everyone. It's okay to be comfortable in the things you don't know yet. Because this is where I think imposter syndrome drives us crazy, thinking that we need to know everything. No, you don't. You're not alone in this. You have team members, you have colleagues. You're not the only one responsible. So it's okay to feel confident in your disability, let's say. As long as you keep learning and improving, you're good enough, and you can get better at the same time.
That's right. You're right on
That
the money.
sums it up.
I'm gonna put that on the towel, you know.
Put it on the towel.
Yeah, I
Give
think
me one.
it's a hard thing to be comfortable with the unknown, you know, because I mean,
But designers who are the ones that will actually explore the unknown, because it's not that scary anymore.
So have you conquered that fear yet?
I am getting quite comfortable in doing things that are scary. I try to do it very often. Just to give you a bit of reference, I'm a high school dropout. And I was a high school dropout because I had an immense fear of people, like really bad anxiety. And these days I lead design teams. I stand on stage, I speak in public, I record a podcast. It's like, do the scary things over and over again, and it does become less scary.
Your younger self will probably be very proud of you, I think.
Man, every once in a while I'll travel back in time and give myself a high five.
Yes, we should do that sometime.
Yeah, no, that is something I'm proud of, you know. That's why I believe in it thoroughly. Yeah. Right,
Nice.
man.
Okay.
I want to thank you for a very exciting conversation.
Thank you too for a very inspirational conversation.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. And I'll get the towels printed, you know.
Get the towels. Well, you're in Amsterdam North. What I wanted to share with you, our studio's open to anyone on Fridays. Like, feel free to come hang out, work there, chill. We always got crazy vibes going on. So
yeah, that seems cool.
Feel free.
Usually on Fridays I'm just working on my projects. Actually, it might be possible.
Then I guess I'll see you on a Friday soon.
I'll see you. Do a cup of coffee, you know.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, great.
All right, man. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.